Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. I'm Ashley, she, her.
And I'm Melissa, she, they. And today we are finally back to talk about season 2 as a whole.
Woo! We did it.
We made it. It took a minute.
Yeah.
But we are finally here. We have watched all of season 2.
A little rocky at the end, but we did it.
We made it.
Such a good season.
Yeah. So before we get into anything, Ashley, we are bad Swifties.
What did we do?
So we didn't mention that Imogen's prom dress looks so much like the Speak Now Eras Tour dresses. And I personally am very disappointed in myself. Just because it's Imogen and it's Taylor, and I literally was Speak Now for the Eras Tour.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm very disappointed in myself, and I would like to apologize to everyone.
Well, listen, the important part is that we're talking about it now.
Yeah, but I'm like, I literally was like, it's my favorite dress. I love it so much. And
yeah.
I didn't mention that it just is, like, major Speak Now Eras Tour.
Yeah, it really is. It's the perfect color for that.
The color and, like, the sparkliness. And, like, all of the, like, enchanted, or the Speak Now dresses are, like, ball gowns. And this is, like a princessy kind of dress.
Yeah. It's, yeah. Yeah, listen, there was a lot of screaming in that scene. And
there was a lot to talk about.
We hit the important parts. Sorry that we missed the dress.
Yeah. I will say that you and I have talked about this, but we both made a note about it.
Yeah.
And just so much else was going on that we both missed our notes about it.
Yeah. That happens when we get really excited and chaotic about something.
Yeah. I also did want to bring up something that I guess people maybe are getting the wrong impression about some things that we're saying.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were talking a lot about the acting between Kit and Joe in the last episode. And I guess some people thought that meant that we ship Kit and Joe. And you actually are the one who, like, told me about this. I don't know if you want to kind of sum up what actually was, like, the conversation, but I just wanted to dispel that idea, because no.
Yeah, we had a couple of different DMs from a couple of different people that were just like, you know, we picked up on I feel like somebody said we picked up on your hesitancy to talk about it. And I was like, that was not what, what we were. If anything, I was struggling to put words to how good the acting is and, like, how the feelings that it gave me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up really quick because, we just, like, genuinely admire their acting. Like, it's really good acting. And as people who don't do a lot of acting, it's difficult to fathom.
Yes.
Just, like, how they do that.
Yeah.
Which was really what we were getting at, is just, like, the awe of, like, the skill of being able to do this.
Like, their chemistry is fucking amazing, but that does not mean that there's anything else going on. Like, their job is to make us believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I don't want us getting, like, a reputation of shipping them, because
we don't.
And I don't want anyone to feel, like, called out or anything, like we're, like, pissed off about this or anything. We just wanted to set the record straight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we ready to dive in?
Are we ever?
No, but so I figured we'd start with just our overall thoughts on the season.
Mm-hmm.
I personally love season 2 so much. It is so important to me. Like, season 1 is special in that the whole season feels like magic. Mm-hmm. It's pure and it's beautiful. And I'm not trying to say that I, like, don't like season 1. I fucking love season 1. But I love season 2 so much. It's, I love the slightly more mature, heavier themes that we get. And I know that we've said this 100 billion times since we started this podcast, but Alice does such an amazing job of balancing the lovely, happy pureness vibe with the heavier, intense topics. And I think that they pulled it off so brilliantly in the writing for season 2 to give us the heavier, more mature overall feel without losing the magic and without it feeling out of place. It never feels like they're tossing that magic vibe in just to like placate us. So it all just feels so natural. And I just think that they're so brilliant. They're so brilliant. And the entire cast and crew is phenomenal. The season wouldn't be what it is without every single one of them, you know, from the writing to the directing to the set design to the hair and makeup, the editors, the music, the actors, all of it. Like, it's just, it's a masterpiece of a season. And I really enjoyed it, and I was really impressed with the ways that they were able to push their limits while staying true to the core essence of the show and the graphic novel.
Fair.
So that's my overall thoughts on how I felt about season 2. I love it a lot.
Yeah. I go back and forth. There's things that I like more about season 1, and there's things that I like more about season 2. I think for me, like, season 1 is just always gonna have like such a big place in my heart.
Absolutely.
I like season 1 more. I can't put my finger really on what it is of like why I like season 1 more, but I think that like definitely part of it has to do with like the dives into the darker subject matter, because for me, like, as much as I think that the conversations that are being had are important, they also just like touch a very specific nerve that makes me like need to back out a little bit, like, emotionally in order to like get through to the stuff that I'm like here for and that I love. Like, when I read the comics, I love Alice for this, but like all of the difficult stuff has content warnings on the top of the page for the comic, like the web comic. It's actually why I read the web comic more than I read the physical books, because there's like these built-in checkpoints in the comics that like give me that chance to be like, am I good?
Yeah.
And the show doesn't have that. So that has, I think, made it harder for me to connect to this season compared to like the like pure like love and joy of season 1, like that I have with season 1.
I do see what you're saying about the content warning, because like they put in the little thing that flashes at the top, you know, strong language or whatever, but it's season based and not episodic based. So like you don't really know what you're going to get episode to episode. You know what's kind of going to be included in this season.
Exactly.
But you can't open an episode and be like, oh, this one's going to have this specific thing that's going to be triggering. Mm-hmm. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And like, even just like that, like even like on my like 3rd, 4th, 5th watch, right? Like I know what's in each episode. So like after the first time through, it doesn't become as much of like the content warnings not being the issue. It's just like the content itself, regardless of whether or not it's, you know, announced beforehand. Like it just, I have to maintain like a certain distance, otherwise my brain go not good. Yeah,
that's fair.
I do, though, I want to say that there are some things that I really love. I didn't think that they could one up the score and the music and the soundtrack, but they did. Amazing job with the music. We have minimum two whole episodes about the music coming out soon. Yes. Hint, hint. But I can't like talk about the season overall without talking about that. I think that there is a lot of really good character growth across the board in this season. I mean, especially Tao. Have to shout that out because I was a very staunch Tao hater. And like I stand by that. I stand by it. I rewatched season 1 last night and like I wanted to punch Tao in the face a couple times still. Like, you know, I stand by it, but like, you know, I just am really pleased with the growth that we got from him. I really like what we got with Imogen in this season and Isaac. And of course, Nick and Charlie, like all of the characters, I just really like the character growth that we got, which I do think was benefited by the fact that they got the 2 seasons greenlit at once, because it gave Alice more space to spread it out and not have to have things wrapped up. So, okay, if we don't get picked up, we can continue on, you know.
Which I'm very curious about for season 3.
Yeah.
Knowing that season 4 is kind of up in the air. But based on the season 3 like announcement we got, I kind of have an idea of where it'll end. Yeah. And I feel like that would be a good it's a good, it can wrap up the series and be the final episode of the series, but it also can continue going. So I think that's, they're in a good spot.
But yeah, so I think that was like a really big strength, other than the things that you already touched on, because I definitely agree with you about the balance of the like heaviness and levity throughout the season. But we've talked about that to death. But yeah, so those are kind of like the standouts from this season for me in terms of like
overall. Yeah, I definitely. It's really, I do not say this lightly. It is really fucking hard to try to say which season is my favorite, but I fall season 2 over season 1. And I thought, I said that pretty early on and was like, we'll see how I feel when we get to the wrap, once I've like calmed down, because I was like really excited, when it first came out. But yeah, I spent a lot of time this last week kind of thinking about it, and I feel like your favorite of anything can change based on like where you're at and like what you're going through and like, different things. So don't come at me if in a year I say something different.
Yeah, that's like definitely like an extremely true thing. Like from my end, like just how, like what is going on in season 2, like is part of the reason that like for me that I was like, yeah, I think that we need to kind of step back from the like bi-weekly schedule, because it was really difficult for me to get through a lot of the episodes. And so like being able to give myself more time to prepare episode by episode, like emotionally, and like give myself the time that the episodes deserved, like that for me was a big part of the reason that I was like, is this something that we want to consider? Yeah. With like stuff that was going on.
Right. Okay, so the next thing I have is just I rewatched all of season 2, and I just kind of jotted down some things as I watched it. So they're in chronological order. Okay. The first one is just in all caps. So you're telling me that on Friday, Nick ran off the rugby field, grabbed Charlie by the hand, drug him inside the doors, not even that far, but just barely inside the doors. And not a single little nosy kid was watching them through those doors make out. And then the following Monday, Nick comes in, covers Charlie's eyes from behind and fucking giggles, then grabs him by the hand and takes him into a closet. And not a single student in that class was like, gay.
I know. Not enough people were like, I fucking knew it.
Yeah.
When it came out. And like on the flip side to that, like I'm pretty sure that if there were people who said that, I'd be like, first of all, fuck you.
I know. We're not gonna be happy with either outcome.
Yeah, we're not gonna be happy with either, but like knowing how teenagers are.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's hard to believe that no one suspected anything ahead of time.
Yeah. And like I had a discussion about this with Meg from Discord, and she was saying like the people close to them did know. And she was like, and teenagers are in their own little world, so like they weren't really paying attention. And I'm like,
teenagers are also nosy as fuck, and Nick dragging Charlie
in front of the whole school.
Very public. Like
two whole schools.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that would have gotten noticed. Like people were watching them, like actively eyes following them. So like it's that I definitely like get what Meg was saying about like teenagers are in their own little world, but just like given the very public event that like precipitated all of it.
Yeah.
That's I think where it's like, wait, no one put 2 and 2 together? No one?
Yeah, I don't know. I just was like rewatching it. last night. I was trying to like go and because like when it dropped and in my previous rewatches, I was like isolating it, right? Trying to analyze just season 2 and thinking about it like this is literally just the next Monday.
Yeah.
So like it's just wild. And then that also made me think about how awkward Tao is in season 1 or in episode 1 with Elle because they literally just had their sports day like butterfly moment where he's like just figuring out that he has feelings for her.
And like where they almost kissed.
Yeah. And so like that awkwardness doesn't feel like as
out of place,
like jarring as it did rewatch or like on this rewatch because I was actively thinking like this is literally 3 days after. Yeah. So
well, I guess we don't know do we know for sure that it's like the following Monday?
Yeah, because he said I came out to my mom last night, which means that's right after the Sunday beach date, which was scheduled at sports day when they were kissing.
Forgot about that.
So it's literally the following Monday. Yeah. So my next note is that I would kill to see the rest of the scene after we cut away when Nick comes out to Imogen and she tells him that it's Ben that she has a crush on, and he gives her this look of absolute disgust, and then the camera cuts and I'm like, how did he get out of that? Because he confronts her later about it, but like how did that resolve? I would kill to see that, the rest of that scene.
Yeah, that definitely. I didn't even think about that.
I didn't either until I was rewatching it. And I was like, how did they get back downstairs after that?
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about David a little bit and his intro, like his first episode and his last episode.
Yeah.
They're such a good, like perfect parallel that I hadn't noticed before. But, we're introduced to him on the couch and Nick is like messing with Nellie in the kitchen and Sarah's in there and he says like, no one's happy to see me. I guess I'll stay with Dad next time or whatever. And Sarah's like, we're all very glad you're back from uni or whatever. So that's how we're introduced to him. And then in Sorry, we see him again for the first time on the couch with Stefan acting a fool. And then when he's a dick at dinner, Nick tells him, maybe you should stay with Dad next time. And so it's like this full circle of, I also like that it's like the living room kitchen every time too. Like he's,
well, I mean, and those are public spaces within like a family home. And so, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting to think about the full circle of David's storyline that we get as well.
Yeah.
At the end of Family, when Nick tells Charlie in the voice note that he promises that he can handle the backlash of coming out, it like broke my heart all over again going into promise after that. It hurt me. All over again.
It's hurt me. Rude.
I'm just sorry.
Rude.
This will be a funny one to like a little soothing balm on the cut from that one. When they're planning prom and they're discussing a photo booth while Tao is like texting Elle. So we like see the text and we kind of cut away, but we can hear them still chatting. And they're like, oh, a photo booth is going to be way too expensive. And they're like, well, Elle's going to be there. She can just paint everyone's portrait for free. So then I just picture Elle like frantically painting, trying to get everybody's photo done at prom. I just thought that was funny.
I feel like they went for the happy medium of having Elle paint the backdrops for the photos.
Yeah.
And getting her free labor that way instead of forcing her to paint everybody's portrait at prom.
Also, this one might fire you up a bit, but do we think that Charlie not doing his history coursework is another result of his need for control? Because once there's pressure on him to do it, he grasps on to not doing it to feel in control of the situation.
I feel attacked.
I thought it would fire you up. That's what I
said. No, because that was something that I did. Like, that was like, what you just described was a thing that I did in school. It was like very much like a gifted burnout kid kind of thing for me in like high school and even into college a lot of bit. But So given that, I'm going to say probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, something I picked up on this time around. And then I have a little Discord note. Sorry Singer on Discord pointed out, I think they said that they had watched a YouTube reaction that pointed it out, that there's a parallel between Nick pulling Ben off of Charlie by the shoulder and Charlie pulling Harry off of Nick by the shoulder, and they both tell him to piss off. So I thought that was really interesting and something I had never noticed.
I hadn't noticed that either. See, that's the kind of thing that's hard to pick up on, like, unless you do an 8-hour straight through binge, which is really hard to do. Source, I tried to do it last night. I made it to I made it halfway through Girls, and then my body was like, no, go to bed.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because even though I didn't drink last night, I woke up feeling very hungover.
Ugh, the worst. It's like I didn't even do anything to deserve this.
I'm like, I didn't even have the fun part. I didn't even get to have the fun.
Exactly.
That usually precipitates this.
I made it a little further than you. I made it through all of season 2, and then I watched Meet and Crush, and then I was like, okay, I gotta go to bed.
To be fair, I also think it was like the emotional hangover for me, so...
Yeah, true. Also, it was like your last day of work before spring break, which
it was a hard day.
Yeah.
It was a difficult day for me, so...
That's a factor for sure.
Like, I think that is what precipitated the, like, crap. It is what precipitated my desire to do this. I was like, this is a thing that's going to make me feel better. And I was right. It did make me feel better. But then, just, like, once I got home and had, like, eaten and hydrated and kind of calmed down a bit, my body was like, oh, you're safe, you can rest, you don't have to work for another week. Shoom!
Yeah. Whereas, like, I had yesterday off of work.
Yeah.
To go I had, like, a hair appointment, so I made, like, a self-care day out of it. So I got, like, comfort food from my hometown before I came home. So I just got my hair done, grabbed some food, came back, watched Heartstopper, had some alcohol, just like chilled for the evening. So we were on 2 very different energy levels when we started this.
And you also started earlier than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just very differing circumstances, but you know.
In Heat, I noticed that there's several really beautiful like one-shots. We talked about them a little bit like in our recordings, but like watching it all back, I was like, oh, a lot of these fall like in the same episode, like them on the ground when they're doing their worksheets, like that's all one shot. In the Louvre, when we're like walk past all the characters and lead up to Elle looking at the painting, like that's all one shot. It's just very beautiful.
And I think it also, especially in that episode, like really works to like emphasize the like tiredness and the malaise, because we're like doing these, and especially in a show like Heartstopper, which is very quick cut.
Yeah.
Doing these intentional like longer takes really slows things down, and I think highlights like that drop in energy and that malaise that Charlie is feeling throughout the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, these are the kinds of things that I went to school for, so.
No, yeah, I love hearing that shit, because I know nothing about it. So I'm just like, oh, pretty. And you're like, yeah, here's all this technical stuff. And I'm like,
character analysis. Here's how they accomplished, here's why they did that in terms of like, communicating the internal lives of the characters. Yeah.
Yeah. It like brings a whole different aspect that my brain is just like not capable of picking up on. So the next one's sad. The next note I have is not fun. Charlie at the top of Perfect saying that this is the best his life has ever been. It really broke my heart all over again, rewatching and thinking about what's to come in season 3 and even at the end of Perfect. But like he legitimately believes that this is the best his life has ever been. And I feel like at his age, he probably thinks that's the best it will ever be. And at the same time, he still is struggling with his mental health. And to know that things are great for you and you still can't keep the darkness out is like a devastating realization. I have been there, and I was an adult, so I can't imagine as a teen what that internal struggle is like.
Do you know what I think Charlie needs?
Therapy?
Well, yes, but like in specific relation to what you're saying.
Yeah.
He needs the song 15 by Taylor Swift.
It
does a lot. He needs the songs 15 and Nothing New. I think that like dyad of songs, I think would be very good for him at this point in his life. But I have a Taylor Swift song for every occasion, so you know.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like he needs a lot of Taylor Swift songs. A lot of the characters need some Taylor Swift in their life.
I mean, she's just been writing about so many things for so long that she's covered a lot of the, like,
yes,
human experience of being a teenager, a 20-something, even into, like, 30s now. So it's just kind of... She's got a lot of life covered in her 17-year discography, so...
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
But yeah.
The next one, I have a bone to pick.
With whom?
We don't get to see Sarah nor Yan react to prom outfits, and I think that is a crime.
Yan would have gushed and gushed and gushed and gushed about Elle's dress.
Yes.
Maybe that's why they didn't do it, because it would be impossible to believe that Yan ever let them out of the house. She would just be, like, showering praise and wanting to take pictures and, like, you know,
it could have been a montage though. We could have seen, like, because we do see Elle's parents, but they're the only ones. So we could have had a quick split screen of them, like, of the parents being excited.
I mean, there's also the fact that Tao picked Elle up at Elle's house, and so, you know, where would Yan have fallen into the equation?
In a corner somewhere.
She insisted she tag along.
Yeah, she could have drove them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that's a crime we should have seen. They both Sarah and Yan would have had phenomenal reactions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I just have one more.
Okay.
Charlie Spring is so strong and so brave, and I just love him so much. And Joe Locke deserves an Emmy for this final scene. Really for the whole season, but specifically this scene between them. The nonverbal acting is so fucking good. You can see him literally, like, trying to hype himself up to push the words out of his mouth. And then when he finally does, he looks up and looks Nick dead in the eye when he says it. And that takes, like, that takes a lot of strength. And he, like, you can see him, like, closing himself off physically the more and more that he speaks. And I cannot praise him enough for the whole season of acting that he did, but also this final fucking scene just is like the nail in the coffin of the give Joe Locke an Emmy battle that I feel like we're leading at this point.
Yeah.
So good.
I also want to give A-Ross his props with a lot of that as well, because I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge or recognize or know how much direction like is involved in that, especially with young actors and like newer actors, right? And so I do, like, Joe does an amazing job, but I do also want to give A-Ross his props for, my guy, whatever you're doing, whatever you're telling these kids, like, hats off to you, because everyone's killing it. And, like, really the only, like, seasoned actor in the show prior to Heartstopper was Kit.
Yeah.
And so, like, you do have to, like, there is a bit more of a lift on the director with less experienced actors, just because they don't know, like, the landscape and all of that stuff as well as someone who's done it before. So I do want to just also celebrate whatever it is that A-Ross is doing to get everyone, like, in the right mental space and to understand, like, where the character's at and, you know, what they're trying to communicate, because that is an important part of it as well.
Yeah, very valid. Okay, so the next section that I have is favorite moments, and I went into my rewatch, and I was like, I'm going to be fucking brutal. I'm going to be so brutal, and it's going to be only my, like, top moments. Do you know how many I ended up with? 20 fucking 9. And I was gonna go back and cut it down, I was like, I'm going to have to go back and make some cuts. But then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to. I'll just rapid fire them.
Yeah. You know this. The listeners don't. When we were discussing this, I was like, yeah, I'm going to try and, I was like, because I couldn't rewatch the whole thing last night like I wanted to, I'm just going to go back through my notes and flag some of my favorite moments. However, I didn't get a chance to do that, unfortunately. So I'm just going to be like quickly scrolling through everything.
That's fair. I'm just going to I'm just going to rattle them out at y'all. The opening montage is perfect. Mm-hmm. It does such a good job of like setting us up for Nick and Charlie this season. Mm-hmm. The locker room candy bar thank you scene. Mm-hmm. That one just makes my heart swell every time. If you're in our Discord, you know that if you want to make me melt, that is the gift to send. The scene of them on the couch at the party, at the beginning of the party and out, when they're like slowly getting closer to each other and they're like, you got the sparks and it's like the parallel to Nick like hovering over his hand and not having the like push the actual, mm-hmm. He doesn't actually hold his hand to like them touching each other in front of like in a room full of their friends. And it's just, it gets my heart rate going every time I'm like, mm-hmm. So that's definitely on the list. Then I have the park scene in Family. But from like all of it, from Paradise all the way through to like the soft launch on Instagram at the end when Charlie's walking home. Yeah. And then the Really Good Mates clips we get.
Whoa. Oh, no, I'm thinking of a different thing from much later in the season. No, I know what you're talking about now.
Just the flashes with the Really Good Mates.
And then
like
making
bubble
out.
letters at the top. Yeah, and all their different makeout scenes. That's top notch. Getting caught kissing in the storage room and Coach Singh talking to Nick after. So I counted that like all of it because iconic, them getting caught in the storage room. Coach Singh's like, oh, I don't get paid enough for this, but wait, shit, I actually should probably talk to them about this. And then just everything that she says in that discussion with Nick is so important. And so I wanted to include that all as one, even though it's technically probably two scenes. Imogen's breakup with Ben. It's got to be on my list. I'm wearing the Your Energy's Off bracelet I got in our bracelet exchange. I wear it all the time. I love it so much. It's one of my favorites. And also included in that is the hug with Imogen in the bathroom between Nick, Charlie, and Imogen. I want to include that in that batch of scenes as well. So the next one I have written down is Nick and Tao in the hotel room. Nick telling Tao that he's funny and interesting and cool and like kind of hyping Tao up around his feelings for Elle. You'll see that this is a theme, but I fucking love Nick and Tao together. I love them so much. So I had to include that one. The Hickey realization scene where Nick is like a bumbling idiot in the bathroom and then Mom Tao comes in and like yells at them.
We will be having words.
So good. So good. Praise Will Gal for his like physical comedy in that as well. Then the next one I have is in all caps. I don't give a rat's ass, rude boy, grow up. I love that so much. And Isaac laying into Harry.
Yep.
Has to be classic. On there. So what if it was you jealous? Into it was me, right? That whole scene, very cute. Tao and Charlie's best friend moment with the lock and the flashback and Tao opening up about being involved in Charlie's outing. I have to include the You Can Just Feel scene because that quote is one of my top favorites. It's so good and it makes me feel all the things. Tao and Elle's first kiss in the Louvre. So beautifully done. The butterflies, the foot pop that Elle does, like it's all so perfect. And then also like on the heartbreaking side of that, it's the end of Heat when they get on the train and we get the I don't know who I am without you lyrics. It hurts, but it's so well done. And I have to include it because that at that point, I think we talked about this when we covered that episode, but at that point, like the I don't know who I am without you comic scenes were coming out on Patreon.
Yeah.
So like we knew it was coming if you're following the Patreon, but if not, then like when that came out, it all kind of came together for people. But
yeah,
when that night when I watched that scene for the first time, I just immediately started crying. I was like, oh, Nick. So I have to have that. Then I have the scene of them where the like back and forth in the hotel rooms where they're screaming about the Talonel kiss. We got the boys in one room and the girls in one room. And then they all go and do the like explore the hotel together.
Yeah.
That scene's so fun and I love it. And it leads into the teachers at the vending machine, which had to make the list.
Mm-hmm.
The Paris montage in Truth or Dare when they're like exploring and we see them like being silly and taking photos and it ends in the neighborhood with them like holding hands in public for the first time. Like it's such a beautiful scene and I'm gonna wax poetic about it later. But so that one's gotta make the cut. The balcony scene at the party, so pretty, so beautifully shot. Nick's coming out at the party makes the cut as well. You're a pathetic little man. And picking the phone down the steps, that's top notch right there. The Instagram come out to Colors of You and the hug that we get with Charlie resulting from that is so well done. Coach Singh and Mr. Ajayi inviting Farouk to prom. That scene is so funny and I know it's all we've been screaming, but like give us more of them. I love them so much. And Nick and Tao bonding at the prom setup where Tao opens up about his dad. That is such an important scene for, I think, what we're going to see out of the two of them coming in the next season. Nick and Charlie seeing each other in their suits for the first time. That's got to make it. Also, the Just Like Heaven Tao L dance. And this was me being this list was me still trying to be brutal. So I did not include Imogen in that. I only included the dance. It's funny
disrespect, and I thought you were my friend, Ashley.
I was trying so hard to keep it short, and here we are. So yeah, and then Tara and Darcy in the living room leading into the 7 montage and all of the 7 montage. And then obviously the end scene from the moment that he says, "Is everything fine?" all the way through
to the end.
Yeah. Also, somebody messaged us and said that we didn't talk about the fact that it was Wasia Project that sings "You're So Pretty" and that it's Will and his sister. And I was like, yeah.
But we had so much.
I feel like it's that's not like a secret.
Yeah, that's pretty well known, and I feel like there's just like was a lot to talk about.
Yeah. And like that's something that we absolutely will be talking about in the music episode.
Yeah,
so.
That's the thing too, is like we try and not talk so much about the music because we have dedicated episodes for that. Because we could talk about it forever.
Yeah.
Is that still our longest raw recording to date?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. So that's why this time we're breaking it into part 1 and part 2, baby.
And maybe part 3. We'll see
how it goes.
Yeah. But we definitely are planning to bring that up. So we didn't forget. It was a choice.
Yeah.
So you did good in terms of also covering the things that I would have highlighted. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things.
Tight.
That I think I would have said that you didn't say. I'm going to start with in Paris, Talonel at the Musée de Montmartre.
Okay,
and that whole montage, I love the song that's playing. I love like I love that montage.
That's one that I did. I was like, started to write it and I was like, no, you got to be brutal. It's not going to make the cut.
Second is just that you're being gay. Good job.
Oh,
From
yeah.
Darcy.
Yes.
I wouldn't be me if I didn't say Shakespeare and Company.
For sure. I included that in the Paris montage.
Yeah, but like that for me specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, was my favorite part of all that. So Darcy trying on the suit and like the way that everyone like rallies to support her. I mean, I waxed poetic about that in our episode about it, so I'm not going to do that again, but I just think that it was really well done and is going to be really important for Darcy moving forward. And then you didn't say it, but I'll say it, Imogen's spy panic.
Yes. For sure.
Because it's really subtle, but it's really well done. And I was like, wait, they're fucking doing it? They're joking.
This is since this has come up, I just have some things I want to say. So I was talking with someone about Imogen and like them hinting at this, and they were saying like they're into it, but also they want there to be good ally representation in the show, and they feel like they don't want to drop that at the expense of adding in more queer storylines. And my rebuttal to that was that I feel like in media, if we do see good queer allyship, it is often a woman or a female presenting person or like an outcast. And so I really want the Heartstopper like allyship to come from the rugby lads, because I think it's really important that we see popular, sporty, male presenting characters that are non-toxic, that are
like the Cy Christian Otis story moving forward. And like, I mean, we have Tori and we have, I mean, she's Ace. But that's not in here yet. We have Tao, who like, yeah, he's kind of an iconoclast, but like it refers to himself as the token straight friend.
Right.
Like we do have it. And I think for me with Imogen, the ally to queer girl pipeline is such a specific thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That I think that's the story that they're telling. And so it's like, I see that point and I raise you this was the plan all along. There is a very specific experience that is being kind of told through what is happening with Imogen right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to like it being the rugby lads, I think it's important to show not only if we're thinking about the younger viewership, like it's important to show that for both sides of it, right? To let people know that allies they can look like anyone. They can be anyone. And also to show sporty dudes that they don't have to be fucking assholes. You know what I mean? Like they can do the things that they're doing and also reject the culture that's built in to those things.
I'm really excited for more of Cy Christian and Otis, especially as foils to Harry.
Yes. Oh, Harry.
But yeah. So those are my additional moments that I wanted to bring up.
Nice. The two notes that I have written down on things that I would change / expand or whatever you want to say, is they're both things that we have talked extensively about. I would have more Naaman and Felix. It doesn't have to be an insane amount of them, but just a little more sprinkled in.
Enough so that it feels like they have a purpose and aren't just there.
Right. And I also tried to think like, where would it fit in? And I came up short. So I don't know how to make it happen, but I just wish that we would have had a little more of them.
Yeah.
And I know that we'll get more of them in season 3, but just a little more with their introduction. Like we could have even spent just a little more time with them at the party in Promise, and that could have done it. But yeah. And then the other is that we need a Mr. Ajayi and Elsene. It feels like it fits and we're missing it. It's not like an additional thing that should be added in. It's something that has been taken out, is what it feels like to me.
Yes. Like, his absence at the art show is conspicuous.
Or just the fact that they were together in Paris that entire time and we didn't get a single scene of the two of them. So there were just so many opportunities for it doesn't even have to be a long scene, just a quick, even if it's just, we see Mr. Ajayi pull her aside and say, hey, how are you doing? As we pan into something else that we're supposed to be seeing, like just a taste of it to know that it happened. So those are my two things that I wrote down for.
I have one more that I would add. We don't need Ben. Like, okay, so I'm honestly of two minds on this, because I do think that the Ben stuff is important for Imogen's story arc, but I'm also like, couldn't we have accomplished this without him? Like, couldn't we have accomplished something similar without Ben? Like, why did it have to be Ben?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't love his, it's not even, I actively hate his presence in this season. It felt unnecessary because what Charlie says to him at the end in Boyfriend, like, is such good closure. And I just don't really see the point, aside from this, like, part of Imogen's character arc. And I feel like we could have gotten there in different ways without having to bring Ben back into the fold.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So that's kind of my other big thing, that I'm like, this didn't need to be here. It's not in the comics, and like, I know they change a lot, which is totally fine, but like, I was like, we didn't need this. This didn't have to. It was a bad change. It's one of the few changes that I actively disagree with.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. The next bit of the episode is going to be reading. We posted for y'all to send us all of your thoughts, comments. So yeah, the first one was from Liam. And it says, hi, Ashley and Alyssa. Thank you for continuing with the podcast. I love to hear people hyperanalyze one of my favorite shows. Season 1 for me was so important as I saw the individual journey of self-acceptance of a bisexual boy, which I related to massively as I saw myself reflected on screen via Nick Nelson. Season 2, I was worried it wouldn't hit the same as Season 1 because Season 1 meant so much to me. But thankfully, Season 2 is just as good. I think its real strength was the continuation of Nick's coming out story and how it isn't a one-time thing, it's a never-ending journey. Also, the friendships and found family shown on screen are a real strong point of the show, as it shows being queer doesn't have to be an isolating experience, as it so often is. Also, love the turnaround in Tao's character in this season. It was very much appreciated, and him and Nick's dynamic was great. Sorry it's long, but thanks, guys. Love the podcast. Excited for season 3. Purple heart, pink heart, blue heart.
Woo. You're welcome for hyperanalyzing one of your favorite shows. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've been doing it since I was about 14 years old with different shows. And I'm just glad that now I have a space to do it.
Yeah. I was just telling Zach, I was like, imagine how insufferable I would be if I didn't have the outlet of the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, it would just be at you all the time.
I would like to just give a shout out to the people that I was friends with in high school who also watched The Vampire Diaries, who had to deal with my bullshit. Like, I had a few friends who were like as obsessed and like into hyperanalyzing it and like looking up the sport, like looking everything up, but as I was, but to like the people who just were like casual fans of The Vampire Diaries who happened to know me, I apologize. And no, I haven't changed in that aspect. I have in many other aspects, but this one, no. But yeah, I love this. I love this point that you make about the fact that Nick's coming out story, this is like an ongoing thing, and how it's not just a one-time thing. Like a lot of media likes to do, like there's the coming out scene and then it's done, but that's not, they're like actual lived experience. And you're like really right about it being a never-ending journey. And like Nick's, you like Nick's journey through this has been a really good representation of that. So I love that. And also, yes, friendship and found family. I feel like I've talked about that a lot as well in terms of the podcast too. So
Yeah, it's definitely a major theme of the show.
all right, so this is from Chantal. Hi, I just wanted to share my thoughts/journey with both of you as you wrap up season 2. I watched Heartstopper when it first came out in 2022, knowing nothing about it, and loved it. When season 2 was about to come out, I decided to rewatch season 1 to prepare and positively spiraled into the world of Heartstopper. I watched season 2 and then immediately decided to order the comics. I read those and then ordered all of the Alice Oseman's books, rewatched season 1 and 2 many times, found some amazing songs like Why Am I Like This and You're So Pretty, and watched hundreds of clips and edits on TikTok. Since I'm a teacher and was off for the summer, I had the time to obsess. Sounds familiar. I wished I had someone to talk about these things with, but my husband and friends weren't into it. So I discovered your podcast and loved it. After a few months of obsessing, I started questioning why Heartstopper felt so relevant, relatable, and special to me. I started watching more queer content and realized that I'm bisexual at 30 years old, 12 years into my relationship with my husband, who is very supportive. It was quite a realization. Now, almost a year later, I'm still figuring it all out. I heard someone say it's about attraction, not action, but I'm dealing with imposter syndrome most days. I just came out to my oldest friend the other day, and it felt good to say, but still weird. I think queer representation is really important and would have maybe figured out my sexuality sooner if this content was available when I was younger. I'm happy I'll have something to share with my future children. All this to say that I appreciate your content and love hearing your thoughts. I can't wait for season 3.
I think it's so relatable. Thank you for sharing.
I'm smiling so big. I love this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I relate to this a lot. And just keep fighting the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You are valid. You are queer enough. And that is just, it's fucking, man, it's always in the back of your head. But just know that you are a part of this community and you deserve to be involved in it and keep chugging along.
Yeah. And we're so happy you're here. Join the party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've said everything that I would have said. Probably better than me.
So the next one blew my mind a little. They mentioned something that we have discussed, but we just missed it. I don't know how. I've never seen it. They sent a photo of it. I noticed in my rewatch last night. I was like, oh my God, this fucking show. Okay.
I just skimmed it, so I know I couldn't wait. I have thoughts, but read it and then I'll share my thoughts.
Okay. This is from Katie. Hi, I love listening to your podcast and hearing from other people obsessed with Heartstopper. On my millionth rewatch, I spotted some more school badge changing that I haven't heard anyone talk about. Everyone talks about Nick's Truum badge changing to hearts in season 1, episode 1, in the pink dream sequence. But they also notice that Charlie's badge changes in that episode, and then again in season 2, episode 1. So they attach some photos. But in season 1, when Charlie and Nick first meet, Charlie's badge turns to hearts instead of spades. And I have never once picked up on it. If you, Alyssa, if you will scroll to the end of the document, there's a photo. That is wild to me that we have watched this show that many times and still missed it. And then they also point out that Charlie's badge changes again to match the shiny chocolate bar and the thank you chocolate bar scene, which I did notice. I don't remember if we talked about it or not, because that was a lot of babbling during that scene because I just get babbly when it comes to it. So Katie, fucking thank you for pointing that out because it blew my mind. They end the email with looking forward to listening to the next episode and very excited for season 3. Just thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Y'all keep sending us that stuff because it gets me every time.
I feel like it's just something like it's a really cool detail, but I feel like when you're so keyed into every little detail, it's something that's like so small that it's easy to miss.
Yeah. And in that scene, you're so focused on them looking at each other and like feeling all of the feelings of their initial meeting that if you're not actively staring at the jacket, I feel like it's so easy to miss. So kudos to you for catching it.
So I guess on season 3, we just need to do a jacket watch.
Yeah. Yes. We're going to have to do just like a hyper-focused run through.
Just looking at the jackets.
Yeah.
All right. So this next one is from Dana, which now I just can't stop thinking of Dana Scully, but that's a me problem. Hi, I have 3 things to share. I was going to post on Instagram, but the posts never seemed right for this, so this is the perfect opportunity. Season 2, I know you talked about the confusion of the timeline on prom day, but there's also a date inconsistency in the last 2 episodes. When Elle posts about the art school show, it says it's at July 7th at 4:30. It's 3 minutes, 51 seconds into the episode if you want to fact check. Also, how do they get back to dinner in time if Lambert is, quote, so far away? Very good point.
Valid.
Both Tara and Nick say prom tomorrow, which would be July 8th. However, at the end of episode 8, when Charlie pulls out his phone to message Nick, it says Saturday, July 11th, just after midnight, which makes prom on July 10th, not the 8th.
Ooh, all right, good catch.
This next point. Overall, the 2 new characters added, Isaac Henderson and Imogen Heaney, both have the initials IH, high backwards. That can't be a coincidence, right? It can't be. It can't be.
Mind blown. I forgot about that one.
It can't. Whoa. I hadn't thought of that, but you are very correct.
We also didn't talk about the fact that in Meet, when they're making out on Charlie's floor, the tag on Nick's jeans say hi. It says hi. We never talked about that. But
we didn't. All right, next one. Season 1 / my biggest pet peeve. The thing that bothers me the most in the whole show, in which I have to cover my eyes on every rewatch, is that when Charlie goes to run after Nick in the rain, Joe's left shoe doesn't actually go on his foot correctly, but he runs out. I can't imagine there was a better take of that.
We did talk about that.
Yeah.
About how his foot's not even fully in the shoe.
Love the podcast so much. You are the only one I actually listen to at normal speed instead of 1.5x, so I don't miss anything. I didn't know that was a thing that people do. I can't listen to any kind of audio on anything other than 1x speed. Otherwise, it like freaks me out.
I listened to all of our entire last book on 1.8 speed.
I can't do it. But anyway, I appreciate you listening to us in real time, not speeding through it.
Yes.
Really appreciate your deep analysis of everything, particularly the mental health stuff that I'm luckily less familiar with. Thanks again, Dana. Thank you.
What an honor to be the only one that's not sped up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dana. I feel like we just reacted. I just like interrupted you and gave you all my thoughts during that.
It's okay. I do that too. So.
So the next one's from Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
It says, hello, my name's Kayla, she, her, fellow bi girly. Hey. I don't really have any questions or too many comments, but wanted to finally reach out. I'm 28 and I just discovered I was bi in the spring of 2023 and only started slowly coming out last fall. I have listened to you guys religiously and I truly credit finding Heartstopper as a catalyst to me discovering my sexuality. #compet. I'm so grateful for your stories, especially considering I'm in a long-term hetero-presenting relationship. The show has opened and healed wounds in me throughout. I identify so much with Charlie's mental health issues, and I'm so proud of his growth already. What really gets me, though, is Nick's love and support. He so wants to truly understand, and that is something that I want in my 10-plus years of ED and other mental health issues. Love this show and this team endlessly. And thank you for your podcast. And yes, I also am so excited for what's to come for Sahar and Imogen. All my love, Kayla. Thank you for writing in.
Can we just like start a club for all of the later in life married to men bi girlies?
Yes, please. I feel like it helps so much to talk to other people in the same situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My favorite is when you're like, I was at an event once and it was at a gay bar and someone like knew that I was married to a man, was like, I feel like we're the only 2 straight girls in this entire bar. And I pulled like a full Sahar, like, I'm bisexual.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm bisexual.
Yeah. And it was before that episode aired. Like, it was before season 2. So like, I was like, I know this feeling intimately. But yeah, it does help. It really does. Just like in navigating the imposter syndrome, which is extremely real. Going back to what Chantal said earlier, it is extremely real.
Yeah. And so is Comphet. So congratulations on beating it. I'm glad you made it out and into the world of your bisexuality.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for listening and thank you for writing in.
Yeah. All right. Up next, we have Kelly. 2K names in a row.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Ashley and Alyssa. I hope you're both doing okay. I just wanted to drop you a line and say thank you. I know the back end of recording the season 2 episodes has been hard on both of you, but in amongst it, all you found time to record them, to talk with us on Discord, and continue with your epic number of posts across your social media platforms, doing all the activities I read alongside book club, fanfic, etc. It all adds up and takes an extending amount of time. So truly, thank you. Please make sure you're both taking time for yourselves and avoid burnout. I can talk about Heartstopper all day, so it was nice to actually get everyone's insights into scenes and storylines, especially when they diverted or expanded on the comics more than they had. I really appreciate the happiness and joyfulness of season 1, but there's something about season 2 that pulls at my heartstrings a little more. I feel like a lot of the love stories, in my experience anyway, are about the getting together of the couple and not the what happens next. So it's really refreshing to actually go past that whole meet cute and develop into the next part of the what happens now. We also definitely need to talk about the lyrics on the background of certain scenes, etc. They sometimes make me sob more than the show. Mm-hmm. Season 3 era is officially upon us. Roll on October. Kelly, KJ on Discord.
Yes, I think it's super accurate what you've said about we get a lot of the falling in love, but not a lot of the
what happens next.
What next? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Heartstopper is unique in that as well.
I know. I read a lot of rom-coms and I feel like I'm always wanting like more. Like I want to see what your life is like after this. Like, I want to see your domestic life.
Right.
You getting married and like all of the things. And
logs onto AO3.
I feel attacked. But that is something that Heartstopper does really well, is it's not about like, I mean, it is about the falling in love, but I feel like it's also about the staying in love.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I keep bringing up Nick and Charlie just because I've been thinking about it a lot lately, just because of where we are in the show. But like, I feel like that's something that, especially once we get into like the Nick and Charlie of it all, like that's a big part of it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Very good points. Thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us on Discord.
Yes. We have a blast over on Discord.
Yes. My Discord chaos goblins, they keep me sane.
Ironically. Ironically, the chaos goblins keep us sane.
Yeah. Speaking of Discord, the next one is from Astral Inkwell, and they wrote to us on Discord. And they say, I loved season 2, and I cannot wait for season 3. After watching the teaser, I'm very excited to see what they do with everyone, especially Charlie and Tao. Now that we know that Tao is exploring his hobbies, I'm very intrigued on what that'll look like with other people. I wonder if he'll bond over it with Nick, like you both said in the previous episode. Either way, I love this for Tao because it gives him the opportunity to be Tao, not crushing on Elle Tao or protective friend Tao, just Tao. It gives him the opportunity to be his own person. I would also love to see a scene of Darcy and Charlie because they're so similar. They both don't really believe they deserve happiness. I'd love a scene where Darcy is comforting him, essentially saying that their friend group really loves them, even though it's hard to believe it sometimes, and how she's slowly believing that she's lovable and wants that for him. Bonus if Charlie's leaning on her shoulder. I think that's it because this is kind of long, but I just hope for next season we get good development for the characters while also tackling the big stuff in a great way. They brought this up on Discord and they had a discussion about the Charlie and Darcy of it all, and
I was not present for that. This is the first I'm hearing of this, and I'm very upset.
It's so real. Like that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't compare the two of them naturally, but when you sit down and think about it, they are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing them bond, especially knowing like Charlie and Nick's relationship with Tara, like having Charlie and Darcy have this special bond over their mental health issues and their situations, I think is just like very special, and I really hope it is something that we do see.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Astral, for your lovely insights as always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then we had a couple of Instagram write-ins.
All right. So next one is from Andrea. I feel like the show makes me feel so much, and listening to you both talk about it, break it down, and go into the details and discuss the positives and negatives help me know I'm not alone in my love and obsession with it. The community around Heartstopper and your pod gives me more confidence and hope for my own journey and for those coming after me.
Just a lovely message.
Just really well said. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And then Kate also wrote in and said, I know that you struggled a bit with Tao in season 1. So what is your favorite moment of his development in season 2? Mine is when he opens up to Nick in the hotel room. Thanks for all your hard work on this. Side note, this is one of the ones that came in this morning. I didn't have a chance to let you know in advance.
That's okay. I have an answer to this.
Okay.
Like pretty easily. My favorite is when I can't remember exactly what he says, but at the art show, like when he's basically like giving Elle his blessing to like go to Lambert.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is huge for Tao, and I think that's one of my favorite moments of his character development. I love the stuff with him and Nick, but I think that the scenes of him kind of like releasing that tight grip on the friend group are so important to his character development, just because his whole problem in season 1 was his fear of the like breakdown of the friendship group. And so for him to like accept and embrace and celebrate this opportunity for Elle, which is going to bring her further away from him, I think is like, it's just so telling of how far he's come in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. Is that the scene where he says like it doesn't matter where you are, I'm still going to want to be with you?
Yeah, he says like, it doesn't bother me. Like,
yeah.
Something like, yeah, I can't for the life of me remember exactly what he says, but that whole conversation they have at Lambert, I think is really great.
For me, it's for a similar reason to what you've said, is him and Nick at the prom setup when he's talking about his dad and how he thinks that's why he has such a hard time accepting the fact, or like struggling with the fact that he might lose Elle, or that people are going to move away. He kind of hits on those topics and says like, because when I lost him, it was like awful. And so I'm afraid to lose other important people in my life. And I think that was just like such an eye-opening moment for us watching, but also for like Nick to understand why Tal has such a "you're stealing my friend" like kind of reaction to him in season 1. So I think that's probably my favorite Tal development moment. So thank you for asking. That one was fun.
Yeah. And then our last one is from Miss J. Allen 89. I'm sure you'll cover this, but what was your single favorite scene from season 2? I think mine is the end of the post-prom party as everyone leaves, all the love and hugs as they step out of Nick's door. I already told you guys about the fan fiction that I want someone to write about that. So as Charlie waves them off, Nick only has eyes for Charlie as he hugs him and shuts the door. It suddenly pulled me into remembering this whole story, although wonderfully dealing with the lives of other characters is ultimately about boy meets boy. It draws everything back to Nick and Charlie, and I love it.
I love that take on that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is hard for me. I was like, oh, how am I going to pick? How am I going to pick?
Not for me.
I narrowed it down to 3.
Okay.
And I chose a single one, but I just wanted to give a shout out. Like, you have to include the Nick and Charlie end scene for obvious reasons. I don't think I need to elaborate. I think that is one of the best scenes of the show. It's not the number 1 for me, but it was on the list, and I feel like we have talked about it enough to not have to elaborate, but that was on there. And then I'm just going to go into my number 1. It is the 7 montage. And I feel like that scene gives us everything that the show is about all in one scene. We get the like pure, innocent joy, the essence of found family, the queer happiness that is exuding from every single couple that's there. It's beautifully shot. It's one of the prettiest scenes in the entire series, in my opinion. The Nick and Charlie moments are like top notch. It's just a perfect scene, and we get to see them all kind of living their best life after everything that they went through in this season.
Mm-hmm.
And a very close second, the two that I've struggled with the most was that one and the Paris montage for the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we get to feel the essence of the show in those two scenes. You know, just them exploring the city and being silly and taking photos. And then we get Nick and Charlie holding hands in public for the first time at the end. And it's just so powerful and meaningful. And again, beautifully shot. And so I ultimately went with the 7 montage just because at the point in the show that we get the Paris montage, yes, they're going through things, but by the time we get to the 7 montage, like they've really done some work.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And so, you know, Isaac has gone through a lot, you know, Tao and Elle, Nick and Charlie, Tara and Darcy, they've all been through so much. And we have this prom, you know, that they've been building up all season, prom, 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 prom. And then they leave to just go hang out by themselves because it's not about showing off to other people. It's about being with the people you love and creating memories with them. And so just to bring it back to that. And the song obviously has a little to do with it, but not enough that it was like a deciding factor or anything. It's just great that it happened to be our Lord and Savior, Taylor Swift. So that's where I landed.
That's a good one. It was pretty easy for me. I'm curious to know if you'll guess it.
Okay. If it's not, I was thinking it was going to be 7 because you said that the song choice had a lot to do with it. Is it Just Like Heaven?
Mm-mm. It's Paradise. It's the park scene.
Oh yeah.
I just everything about that scene. This is such a film school answer. Everything about that scene from like a technical perspective coalesces in just this like really beautiful way. Like the music, not just lyrically, but like the music, like and like the cadence of it and just like the sound of it does a really good job setting the like the tone of this like gentle, tender, stolen moment because it's like Charlie had to sneak out to get there. The way that it's shot is beautiful. The like colors and the lighting, everything about it just like works together so well, and it really captures for me that feeling of falling in love for the first time and like realizing that that's what's happening. And so it's like one of those, it does it for me, and it just lights up the like filmmaker part of my heart, as well as the Heartstopper fan part of my heart. And I'd never heard that song before, but it's now like one of my favorite songs. I just think that it's beautiful. So
it's always on my on repeat. Like it's always there.
Yeah. So it's that for me. It has to be.
Solid choice.
Yeah.
But that was on my list. You know, I said I narrowed it down to 3. That was definitely, I think I had 6 that I started with. And that was one that was hard to pull off. But the reason that I ended up with going with the group ones is just because I really wanted the found family aspect to be included.
Yes, I agree.
What I chose.
I do think that for me, Darcy trying on the suit would be like a close second for very similar reasons. That scene just like punches me in the like chest. Like I love it so much. It's really well done. Like in a similar way, like the way that it's shot, like does a great job of communicating like Darcy's inner like thoughts in that moment. But just like the way that they all just like go out of their way to just be so loving and supportive. Like and I think I said it at the time, like that's what queer community is. That's what family is supposed to be.
Yes.
And so that's probably a close second for me, but just, I mean, when we get down to it, it's a show about Nick and Charlie.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's fair.
And the park scene with Paradise and Charlie walking home Oh, it just gets me. It gets me good.
That scene is one that I instantly melt. Like the second that it cuts to the park and we get that first note of Paradise, my entire body melts to the ground. I'm like, oh, I love this scene. Yeah. So good. So yeah, that is it. That is our season 2 wrap. 2. If you've made it this far, thank you, because this is going to be one bitch of an episode to edit, because we have had about 7 different recordings that I'm going to have to piece together.
If you made it this far, thank you, because we almost did it.
Yeah.
There was definitely a point where I was like, do we want to just try again later?
I can't do this
anymore. This has been our most cursed recording to date.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
I think just the internet decided to hate us today.
Our previous most cursed episode was Promise because of technical issues. And that makes sense. That's a rough episode to talk about. But
that does not compare to what we went through for this one.
So. Oh my God.
This one might take me a second to get together and get put out.
We appreciate you, Ashley.
Yeah, so if we missed anything or if you have any other thoughts, let us know. Also, I really want to get some voice messages from y'all. Send us your little voices. I want to hear.
Yeah.
And it does, if you don't want us to share it on the podcast, that's totally fine. If you want to send a voice note just for us, just say, don't share this, or, hey,
whatever. Can you read this instead? Can you just read what I say?
Read it out instead of sharing my voice. Yeah, just let us know. We will be very respectful, but I just think that's such a fun feature that we didn't really know about when we started this, that's a thing. So now that I know about it, I'm like dying to get some voice notes. But yeah, like we said, we're going to do the music episode next. So be on the lookout for that. Hi, just kidding. This is Ashley from the future, and we had to reschedule our music episode recording due to everything that went on last month. So actually, what's coming next is a podcast crossover episode for season 2 with Kate and David from Proper Full On Gay Crisis, a Heartstopper fan podcast. So that's actually what will be coming out next.
And that just about wraps us up for today. Right now, we're not quite bi-weekly. I think that we're getting there, but not quite.
Yeah.
This is still a podcast by 2 bisexuals, and we will be back soon.
If you want to follow us online, we are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms. And if you like this, please consider rating and reviewing us. It helps others find us.
And until next time, bye.
Bye.